Hello everybody, my name is Michael Farrick. I'm currently a student at the University of North Dakota. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the audition repertoire for the Youth Symphony audition. Um, there are three major things on it, a couple scales, major and minor, a couple excerpts, and a solo of your choice. I'll be going over with you today the scales, a major and minor scale in 2 octaves, and both of the excerpts that are listed. So first I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the scales. Um, like I said, it's one major and one minor in 2 octaves. There's a sample scale given on the PDF in G major, which is a great scale that I would recommend for the major. For the minor, one I would recommend is A minor. It's a nice comfortable scale that fits under the fingers well. And I would also do two contrasting styles. When you're playing for an audition, it's good to kind of show you can do things in more than one way. The major scale is probably a little bit more comfortable under your fingers, so it might be easier to play a little bit faster, and then the minor scale you could do slower and legato. So for the major scale first, we have G major. I'll demonstrate for you. First, one bow per note, and then the second, if you want to do it faster, to do contrasting styles, I would suggest maybe 4 notes per bow. I'll demonstrate both for you now. There you have the G major scale, and then secondly, you have to play a minor scale. A minor might be the most comfortable. That will go just into thumb position, but the fingering I do at the top will be a 1-3. So 1 on G natural and then 3 on A minor. And this one I would suggest maybe you play a little bit slower and show a nice consistent tone and good intonation. And for that example, I decided to do 2 notes per bow, using the whole bow and about half of the bow for each note. And then after this, you will go to the excerpts, which are listed right below the sample scale. The first excerpt is Symphony Number 2, Allegro Presto. The tempo given there is quarter note is 172. That's pretty fast. That's a great goal tempo for this piece. But I would suggest playing it at what tempo you're comfortable with, a tempo that you can get consistent articulation and good intonation, which is always important for excerpts. There's a few tricky things that I'd like to point out before I demonstrate this excerpt. One is that it's pretty much eighth notes straight through. So the tempo is something that should remain consistent, and also the articulation should remain consistent. It's really easy to make the down bows sound stronger than the up bows, but getting it as consistent as possible will look great for you. A way that we can practice this is on a D major scale, just 1 octave. The pattern that's in this excerpt is usually 6 notes, 6 eighth notes at the same pitch, or 2. So I would suggest playing a D major scale with, 4 eighth notes per pitch, then 2 eighth notes per pitch, and trying to keep both the rhythm and the articulation consistent, something like this. And that's something that will transfer nicely into this excerpt. The tricky measures in this piece are right at the end. So make sure you think about the last measures, how fast you can play them cleanly, and make sure you start the excerpt that fast. Since the beginning is pretty easy, the same pitch repeated for 2 bars, it'll be easy to go too fast and then find yourself struggling to keep up at the end. So I'll take a tempo a little bit slower than 172, but like I said, one that's comfortable for me and one I can stick to. There you have the first excerpt. A couple things I realized while playing it that I'd like to point out is that the last 3 measures, it's really easy to try to use too much bow, and that'll slow you down with the string crossings that are kind of tricky. It's important to remember to use the same amount of bow as the other eighth notes and keep the bow economy to the greatest value you can. Slowly, that would look like. So practice it slowly first with the same articulation, pick it up over time, and make sure you keep the tempo consistent. Moving on to the second excerpt from the same symphony. However, this excerpt is marked andante, so it'll be a bit slower. And the first thing we notice is that this one is at a piano dynamic instead of the forte that the other excerpt was at. And also there's a repeat at the end. So since it's not crossed out, we can assume it's good and play the repeat when you record this. A couple things I can point out before we run through it that are tricky is the difference in articulation between the dotted quarter notes, the quarter notes, and then the difference between those and the dotted eighth notes that come about every few measures. Subdividing throughout this excerpt is very important. Since we have a couple measures of rest or a couple rests, we need to make sure we play those rests with the right duration. And then the shifts. I remember the shifts are a little tricky in this piece. We shift between half position, then up to third with our pinky on the D string, or on the D on the G string. So I'll play through this excerpt and then talk about a couple other things. There you have the second excerpt. A couple things I noticed while playing it. To keep it a piano dynamic, you'll want to be a little bit closer to the fingerboard than the other excerpt. The other excerpt was forte, and it might be a good idea to stay a little bit closer to the bridge to get more sound. This one's piano, a little bit closer to the fingerboard, and a lighter, longer bow. And then to create the contrast and articulation on the dotted eighth notes, you can use less bow and more space. Good luck on your audition. I hope this helps you practice efficiently and think about the right things while you practice. Good luck, and I hope to see you soon.